I left a career in architecture to start my own company, the Composed Domain, after I realized basically that if I didn't leave architecture at some point, I'd never get to go home at night. And I was the little girl who loved running up the stairs and looking at people's homes and seeing what made a space work. So the Composed Domain began with my interest in feng shui and architecture, but has now become a company that's devoted to helping people be at home in rooms that work. So the Composed Domain is a company that addresses people's space. I work with people on organizing projects, working with paper, working with people in transition who are in overwhelm and need to make new decisions about their possessions, deal with clutter clearing. I also do energetic work to shift the feeling of an environment so that it supports the people who live there. The vast majority of the people that I work with come to me because of word-of-mouth references. I also teach clutter clearing at North Seattle Community College and the Edmonds Community College and various other places around town. So people come to those classes to get a sense of how to make changes in their environment. And when they see that I'm safe and comfortable and non-judgmental, then they invite me into their homes to work with them one-on-one with their possessions. I think currently one of the biggest challenges for me as an organizer has been recognizing that people have different speeds that they need to work at. I'm always trying to get the most bang for their buck. I want to completely redo their paper system. And I've learned gradually over time that I really need to take the cue from the client, slow down, help them become comfortable with making new decisions, help them recognize that some of their choices that have been problematic can really be rethought and done in a different way so that their homes can support who they really are instead of who they thought they were. I think my most challenging clients are the ones that begin by resisting any suggestion that they let go of possessions. They have a lot of stories. They say, oh, this cost $500 or so-and-so gave it to me. My challenge with those kinds of clients is to give them new ways of thinking about things so that they can make a different kind of decision. And it's so satisfying to see someone realize that, no, they're in charge of their space. They can choose different kinds of decorations or just things to keep that are meaningful to them. And then when I leave, they look at me and say, now I'm at home. This feels like my space. I'm comfortable here. Well, you know, the reality is, if you have something you just won't let go, my job is not to pull it untimely out of your hands. My job is to help you get conscious, to be aware of why you're keeping it. If you have a really good reason to keep something that supports you as a human being, I'm not going to talk you into getting rid of it. My job is to help you realize why you're keeping it, to raise your level of awareness. And if you're keeping it for a reason that's meaningful to you, then my job is really to help you decide, where is it going to live? Does it have a shelf? If it's in your way, I'll try to convince you to let go of it. But if you have a really strong reason to keep something a little outlandish, I want you to feel at home in your world and to become aware of why you keep things. That's really my job. I spent 20 years as a registered architect, and primarily because I love buildings, I love space, I love how rooms feel to people. And at one point I realized that my professional life was not going to go anywhere very much further because I liked going home at night. I wanted to be with my 2 young children. So I had to find a way out of architecture, but into something that allowed me to experience space and to experience the change in other people when they realize that they have control over their environments, that they can actually create space that supports them. So it began with an interest in feng shui, and that segued into doing clutter work with people and seeing that whereas drawing buildings that got built was fascinating, but nobody ever cried when I drew a toilet. When I taught people how to get their stuff put away, how to really pick clothes that made them feel alive, they cried. I mean, that's a great incentive. Helping people to be more of who they really are. That's the point. And to have spaces that make them feel everything they have reflects back the beauty of their interests, you know, and what they care about. My point of this work is that everybody should walk through their homes constantly being reflected by what they care about. It should all be meaningful. I do sometimes find myself incredibly moved at what happens when someone takes their place in their world, finds a way to shift things so that they do feel balanced, they do feel centered, that things are reflecting back what matters most. It's a very powerful experience to see those things. And I think probably one of the most moving things that happens to me in my work is when I see people making really hard choices to do something different. I work with a small number of people who have very serious hoarding issues. And this is an extremely emotional process because you have to earn their trust. And the only way you can earn a client's trust is to truly understand where they're coming from. What is it about having so much stuff that makes them feel safe? And when I see them beginning to let go, beginning to say, oh, I have choices here. I can choose how to express myself in my space. It's a powerful thing. Well, speaking to other entrepreneurs, I think the power of working for myself is that it's a real statement about what matters to me most. And I knew that I wanted to do a certain thing professionally. And it was lovely to feel like I could do that. But this isn't about will, this is about being. I feel more like I am being who I really am. And having work that allows me to do that and make a difference is really the gift that I think all of us entrepreneurs are after. You know, we know there's something we have that other people crave. That's what I would say. Find that and do it. Now, if I were going to give a clutter buster tip, I would basically say something like, walk around your house and try to figure out what you don't see anymore. The things that we live with disappear with time. We just take them for granted. You know, I encourage all of my clients to move through their space and look, what's on the fireplace mantle, what's on the grand piano, what's on the windowsills, and look again. Does this really reflect what matters to me now, or is it just there because I didn't know where else to put it? And consciously choose what you fill your line of sight with as you move through your space.